Hi, today I'll be talking about my favorite crime thriller / mystery thriller of 2020, The Guest List by Lucy Foley. And this is a book I devoured in one evening. I could hardly get up for anything but eating and cleaning, just because the story had me so riveted and sucked me in so deep that I couldn't bear putting this book down, and I was just rooted to the spot for 6 hours straight. And The Guest List is about a wedding that's taking place on the small, secluded island off the coast of Ireland, where the famous magazine publisher Jules is set to marry her fiancé Will, who is a reality TV star known for his outdoor survival show. So in theory, this perfect couple should be having the perfect wedding, but first a storm comes up, kind of ruining the outdoor vibe. And then in the middle of the evening's celebrations, a server of the wedding comes into the tent and says she has found a body, kind of ruining everything that is going on. The events that unfold before the wedding and then until the body is found are told from 5 different perspectives. One's the bride, the maid of honor, the best man of the groom, the wedding planner, and a +1 of one of the guests. And we are also following 2 different timelines. The first timeline starts a day before the wedding, when everyone is arriving to this island where the wedding is going to be held, and then a second timeline that starts the minute the body is found. So in theory, this book should be very, very confusing and all over the place, just because in total you have these 6 different things going on. But in practice, it really is not confusing, just because the chapters are so well structured and ordered in such a comprehensive way, so you always know who is where, making it easier to jump between the different perspectives and timelines. And on top of that, just this whole wedding party makes it easy to figure out what is going on, because you can't really mistake the bride for the maid of honor or for a guest, just because in a wedding everyone has their place. So it is really easy to see when a point of view is being switched and who has what motivation to any given point of time within the story. Of course, as readers, we know that every point of view that was chosen by Lucy Foley has a certain motivation behind it, and that even though they might seem random when the story starts off, it is no spoiler to say that as the story progresses and with every chapter that we see, we kind of see how these characters are interwoven and what they might have in common, especially as we get to know every character's background story and kind of understand whether anyone might be at this wedding with ulterior motives and might be there to settle a grudge or anything of the sort. And experiencing all these different characters and getting to know their background stories is made especially fun, because we don't actually know who was murdered. We only find out in the second timeline that a body was found, but at that point so many characters are missing, or you can't account for where they are, so that you only find out who the victim is a couple of pages before finding out who the murderer was, which just gives the whole thing a completely fun dynamic. I really love an established cast of characters right from the get-go of a story in the case of mystery thrillers, just because you know that you know who the victim is, you know who the murderer is, and it is just so much fun seeing the story develop and trying to figure out what is going on and who is connected to whom in what way. And of course, this isn't an Agatha Christie type of story, just because we don't know who was killed, so it's kind of difficult to say who was at what place at what time. And on top of that, there is no detective on the island, just because it is so cut off. So it's really more about what the backgrounds of the characters are and how secrets are being exposed that could lead to such a horrible event happening. And the awesome thing about such a setup is that you know that every detail in every chapter is of so great importance, and that you should really keep your eyes peeled at every point, picking up minor hints and maybe combining stories that look like they have nothing in common at the get-go. And I just love seeing characters develop more and more with more and more dirty little secrets, and just seeing how a maybe semi-likable character grows to be more and more unlikable as the story progresses. What I also really liked about the guest list was the setting, just this secluded island in the middle of the sea, and the use of weather, because as the wedding progresses, a storm pulls up, and the storm is the reason why everyone is in this tent when the murder takes place, and it kind of makes it more difficult to get to the body, so that you have this tension slowly build up as a party goes out trying to figure out what happened and who is dead. And just in general, I love this parallel of how before a storm comes, you know, this tension brews, there's static in the air, then there's this big bang when lightning strikes for the first time, and then there's the calm afterwards, and the story kind of parallels this. And I just think it is wonderfully atmospheric and adds so much to the tone of a novel, and just the general setting of everything, and the way characters interact as the storm comes closer and closer. And maybe surprisingly, even though the mystery of the guest list is only set over a total of less than 2 days, as in the day before and then until the evening when the body is found, the pacing is quite slow, or it is a slow burn mystery, just because we get to know so much about the different characters that we keep jumping back in time, unraveling their story up to the point when they reach the wedding destination, so that their movements on the island aren't that big, or not that much is really going on in present time. And I don't mean that the story is badly paced or that it is too slow due to this. It was just surprising, because you know that the story is only set over 2 days, and I think you kind of expect it to be high paced and kind of action going on at every point, and that is just not the case. Even though The Guest List was one of my favorite books of 2020, and I gave it 5 stars, which is a really high rating for a mystery thriller for me, I know this is not going to be a book I'll remember in 2 or 3 years' time, just because it doesn't do anything new or groundbreaking, but it is just such a fun, riveting read in the moment. And I know that when I finished the book, I just sat there thinking, oh, this is so much fun, or this was such a fun experience, that I think that it deserved 5 stars. But as I said, it's nothing groundbreaking, and you can't go into this novel expecting something wonderful, but I think it is the perfect book for when you want to forget the world around you and just want to be sucked into a story and sucked into characters' backstories, and also kind of read about semi-likable or non-likable characters, and dive into this very depressing or oppressive setting with all this drama going on. And I think this book is also good for people who might say that they normally don't enjoy multiple point of views, or that they get confused, because as I said, the point of views are so well done that you can separate the different characters, that every character has their own tone and their own place in the story, and it just adds such a nice overall picture that couldn't have been achieved in any other way. I read The Guest List as a book, but I checked out the audiobook too, and I saw that it has an ensemble cast that is narrating the story, with every point of view having their own narrator. So I think it would have also been a great book to listen to as an audiobook. So if you're not that big a reader or enjoy your mysteries as an audiobook, I think that would also be a great way of experiencing the story. But as I mentioned, this book really had me hooked, so I would not recommend listening to this in a car, because you might just miss your exit or be too distracted by all the drama that is going on. I hope you enjoyed my review, and maybe you are also considering picking up The Guest List now. I can only recommend it. If you've already read the book, maybe tell me down in the comments below whether you enjoyed it as much as I did. I want to thank you so much for watching my video until the end. Please like it and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon. Bye.